Everyone, welcome to this grade 8 maths test scope. So this is for term 3 in 2026. It's basically just a quick breakdown of everything that's going to be in your test according to the annual teaching plan. Hopefully it gives you just a kind of good look at what you should be revising and the kind of questions you can expect. So in term 3, you are expected to learn data handling. So a lot of the times we just call that stats, probability, geometry of straight lines, and then the geometry of 2D shapes. So really briefly looking at this, data handling, there is quite a bit of theory to start with about like how you choose who to interview. You're going to know the difference between a sample and a population. So if I just asked like one class what their favorite cupcakes were versus if I asked the entire population of South Africa. Looking at choosing what is an appropriate sample. So how many people do I need to ask to get a good idea of, South Africans' favorite food? How many people do I have to ask? Do I have to ask every single South African, or do I have to ask just a representative sample? And then designing and using a simple questionnaire with multiple choice. Data handling also includes using tally marks. So that's like when you're counting like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, drawing tables, reading stem and leaf displays, grouping data, and then looking at mean, median, and mode, which you might have seen before. So mean is your average. And how you work it out is you add up everything. So add up all the numbers and then divide it by how many. Your median, I always see median, middle, looks similar. So it's just what is your middle number. So you write them from smallest to biggest, and then you see what is the middle number. And your mode sounds like most. So your mode is your most popular. So which number appears the most. And then you're going to look at the extremes. So which one is the biggest or the smallest. And as part of that or linked to that, you're looking at the range, and range is always your biggest number minus your smallest. These are things you have to know off by heart. They won't give you these formulas or these definitions. As an example, a question in this section would be, the test marks of 9 learners are 12, 15, 15, 18, 20, 22, 25, 25, 30. Calculate the mean, the median, the mode, and the range. So your first step in this kind of question is make sure all the numbers smallest to biggest. It has to be that. You have to check that first. In this case, they have done this for us. So yes, we can say they are written from smallest to biggest. Then let's get into it. So the mean is the working out one. Okay, so mean. We have to add up all the numbers and divide it by how many numbers there are. So here we are going to literally add up 12, 15, 15, 18, 20, 22, 25, 25, and 30. And we are going to divide it by how many numbers there are, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Okay, which they told us there are 9 learners. So divided by 9. So let's work that out quickly. So 12 add 15. So at the top we get 182 divided by 9. And so our mean is 20.22. Then we can work out our median is next. And as I said, our median is just our middle number. And if our numbers are from smallest to biggest, we can literally just go ahead. What I like to do is cross out. So I cross out the smallest, then I go to the biggest side, cross out. You just go back and forth like this. Until you get your middle number, which is the last one left. So that is 20. Then we've got our mode, which is our most popular number. So in this case, it is what is the most common mark for this test. And that is, we can see we got two 15s, we got two 25s. And you can have two modes. So it is 15 and 25. Those are our most popular marks. And then the range is always the biggest number minus the smallest. So in this case, it is 30 minus 12, which is 30 minus 10 is 20, minus 2 is 18. Okay, and so there we go. That is all of the stuff that they asked for on these numbers. We're also looking at probability this term. So looking at simple situations where outcomes are equally likely. So if you throw a coin, you have half a chance of getting heads, half a chance of getting tails. Or if you get, if you throw a die, you have like half a chance or a sixth of a chance of getting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So equal likely outcomes. You might have to list all the possible outcomes of a situation. So like I've said, yeah, if you throw a coin, you can either get heads or tails. Those are the likely outcomes, all the possible outcomes. Find the probability of each outcome using the definition of probability. So that would be, say I have a bag. Let's do a bag. And they say I have 2 green balls and 1 pink ball. And they say, what is the probability of getting pink? The definition of probability says it is how many pink are there? So there's 1 pink. Out of how many balls in total? There are 3 balls in total. So this probability is 1 out of 3. So it is, what is the chance of that outcome out of all the outcomes? So predict with frequency the relative frequency over a series of trials. So this would be, if I keep throwing a coin, you're going to start to see that there's half a chance of getting heads, half a chance of getting tails. So that's just, you're going to throw a coin like 20 times and see that it starts becoming that. And you are going to compare relative frequency with probability and explain the differences. So sometimes, like if you were to throw a coin 20 times, you might not get exactly half heads, half tails. And then you could explain that maybe it's due to just random luck or it's human error, like how you're throwing the coin, things like that. As an example of the kind of things you can be asked in a question. So a bag holds 3 red. Let's draw a bag. Okay, 3 red. 5 blue. And 4 green. One counter is drawn at random, lists all the possible outcomes. Okay, so what basically that just means if I take a counter out of this bag, what could I get? So you just have to list everything you could get. So you could get 3 red. So you could get red, red, or red. You could get 5 blue. So blue, blue, or you could get 4 greens. Okay, so this feels tedious, but that is all they want. So the possible outcomes, you just got to list everything that you could get, and then find the probability of blue. So the probability of blue is how many blue counters are there. So there are 5 blue counters out of how many counters are there in total. So that is 3 add 5 is 8, add 4 is 12 counters in total. So that is your probability of choosing a blue one. Also, this term, you are looking at the geometry of straight lines. So what to know is you need to describe pairs of angles formed by perpendicular lines. So that is just a 90-degree angle. Okay, perpendicular lines are like this, and they form a 90-degree angle. You are going to be looking at describe pairs of angles formed by intersecting lines. So that would be a case like this. You have intersecting lines, and then you have vertically opposite angles. And what you're going to learn, or what you should be learning, is vertically opposite angles are equal. You're also going to be looking at pairs of angles formed by parallel lines cut by a transversal. So in this section, you are going to be looking at what's called corresponding angles. So that's the lines make an F shape, and those angles are equal in there. Or alternating angles, which are like a Z shape, and these angles are equal. Or co-interior angles, where it's angles in here add up to 180 degrees. Okay, so if you don't know those, make sure you go back and revise those. So what these ones are called, it's corresponding angles, alternating angles, and co-interior angles. And these are all between like parallel lines. So you can see these are the parallel lines in here. And then you're going to solve geometric problems using all these different angle relationships. Okay, make sure you learn these reason words. So vertically opposite angles, corresponding angles, alternating angles, co-interior angles, angles on a straight line, and angles around a point, because for every question in this section, you have to give a reason. So let's look at an example. 2 parallel lines are cut by a transversal. So we have 2 parallel lines. They are cut by a transversal. Just means there's a line that goes through them. These lines are parallel. One of the co-interior angles is 115 degrees. Find the other co-interior angle. So let's just make that X, and give a reason for your answer. Okay, so I'm going to label these lines A, B, C, D. They're asking us to find this angle X here. What we need to do is they tell us it's co-interior angles. So that is going to be our reason straight away. What we can say is 115 plus X is equal to 180 degrees. And then let's do our reason here. Okay, our reason is co-interior angles add up to 180 degrees. And it is good practice. It's not always expected at grade 8 level, but it is good practice to get into the habit of naming the parallel lines. So the reason we can say co-interior angles is because AB is parallel to CD. So you can see why I labeled those lines. Then we can just work it out. So X is 180, take away 115. And so X is 65 degrees. Okay, and then finally, this term you should have looked at geometry of 2D shapes, so triangles. So maybe you were looking at equilateral triangles. So an equilateral triangle, all the sides are equal and all the angles are also equal. They are all 60 degrees. An isosceles triangle, two sides are equal and two angles are equal. Okay, so that's what an isosceles triangle looks like. And a right angle triangle has one right angle in it. The sum of interior angles of a triangle, so this is just always interior angles of a triangle adds up to 180 degrees. The size of the angles in an equilateral triangle, we said that's they always equal to 60 degrees. And the sides and base angles of an isosceles triangle, that's just showing this side is equal to this side. And so then it points at these angles. So this angle is equal to this angle. An example, or not yet, we're also looking at quadrilaterals this term. So you need to be able to define parallelogram, rectangle, square, rhombus, trapezium, and kite. You'll have a list of this in your textbook. Your teacher should have given you this. You need to go through and make sure you can pick those out. You know about the angles in them. You know about the sides in them. The sum of the interior angles of a quadrilateral, you need to know that quadrilaterals add up to 360 degrees. With parallelograms, you need to know in a parallelogram that this side is equal to this side is equal to this side, and then the opposite angles are equal. So this angle is equal to this angle, and this angle is equal to this angle. You need to know about congruent shapes and similar shapes. So congruent shapes are exactly the same. So they have the same size and shape. Similar shapes have the same shape, but they can be bigger or smaller, so different size. And you need to know the reasons for that, and then solve for unknown sides and angles in triangles and quadrilaterals. An example of a question in this section. In quadrilateral ABCD, so we don't know what it looks like, but we know it's a quadrilateral, so it's got four sides. We don't know that it's a rectangle, I'm just drawing it. So let's draw A, B, C, D. They say angle A is 95 degrees, B is 78 degrees, C is 112 degrees. Work out the size of angle D, giving a reason. Okay, so what we are going to say is that 95 degrees plus 78 degrees plus 112 degrees plus angle D is equal to 360 degrees. The reason is the interior angles of a quadrilateral add up to 360 degrees, always. So it doesn't matter what the quadrilateral looks like. If it's a quadrilateral, this is true. And so we can simply work out 360, take away 95, take away 78, take away 112. Let's see. Is 75 degrees. And so angle D is 75 degrees. Okay, just some things to keep note of for this term, especially for your test coming up. Make sure you always give a reason. So every time, like I said, every time you work one of those questions, make sure you give a reason, because you'll get a mark for your working and a mark for your reason. So it's good habit to just always set it up like I've been setting up. So you have your working and you have your reason every single time. Learn the definitions word for word. So just good practice. It's easy marks, easy theory. So if you're struggling with the other work, make sure you have your definitions down. Make sure you know the difference between congruent and similar. So congruent is when it's two identical shapes, okay? And then it's the same shape and same size. Similar, it's the same shape, but it could be a different, or it is a different size. And then make sure you know when you are doing stats, you make sure it is always smallest to biggest. Make sure you rewrite your data in that form. So smallest to biggest, and you have to know how to work these out. So your median is your middle, you need to know that. Your mode, you need to know, is your most popular. Those ones are pretty easy to do. Your range, straight away you have to know that is your biggest minus your smallest. And then the kind of tricky one is your mean, where you need to add them all up and divide it by how many. Okay, that is just a really quick run through of everything you have to do for your term 3 test. I hope this helps, but please let me know in the comments if you have any further questions.